Okay, hello everybody. I'm Evgeny Yurchenko, working for BGmot Canada, as Patrick said. The topic of my presentation is sneak peek into Zabbix.4, but I'm actually be speaking only about one of the coolest features 6.4 brings to us. And now I just want to show you why I think this is one of the coolest features. So everybody can go to support.zabbix.com and file a feature request. And take a look at this feature request, Zabbix LDAP authentication with groups support. This is second top voted feature request of all times. And it was submitted 2010, March 17, 12 years ago. Finally, this request gets implemented. This feature gets implemented. And with 6.4, we'll have LDAP authentication with groups support. Now I'll tell you how it's gonna work. So let me start. So what's the problem? Why do we need this feature? As you all know, well, the people who use already Zabbix, when user logs into Zabbix web UI, Zabbix first checks whether this username exists in Zabbix database. If it does exist, if it doesn't exist, so go away, you don't exist, there's nothing you can do. Now, if this username exists in Zabbix database, Zabbix actually talks to LDAP server and verifies whether this user provided correct password for this username. If it's not correct, again, go away, nothing you can do. If correct, you are logged in, feel free to browse web UI and do whatever you want, according to your permission, of course. Now, what's the problem? The problem is when you have 2-3 users, it's actually not a problem. If you have a large organization and multiple groups, users divided between these groups needing a different level of access, and you need to configure every user basically with all the details, username, email, password, all this stuff. That becomes pretty hectic job. So 6.4 brings just-in-time users provisioning. How it works on high level. So again, user goes into Zabbix web UI, enters username and passwords. Then Zabbix doesn't check database whether this user exists. It directly goes to LDAP server and gets all the information it can get about this username from LDAP server. First of all, it checks, okay, authenticated or not. If not, again, you can't log into Zabbix if you can't provide correct username and password. If you're authenticated, then Zabbix goes through all groups this user belongs to in LDAP server and finds whether there is a match with configured mappings in Zabbix. We'll talk later about Zabbix mappings. If any match found, so basically we know how to map LDAP group to Zabbix internal user group. Then the user is created in internal Zabbix database and with given a membership in user group and pre-configured role for this mapping. You are welcome, user is created, you can browse web UI and do whatever you want according to your permissions. So how it works? First of all, for this presentation, I'll do quick demo later. I'm using these container images. The first one is standard one. I haven't changed anything in it. This just lets you see what's inside your open LDAP server. The second one is actually open LDAP server, but pre-configured by me. So basically, I baked this image just for experiments and for this demo. Then 3 containers are Zabbix related. The first 2 I built myself. As Nathan mentioned, thanks to God, Zabbix is open source. So I just pulled feature branch where this feature is implemented and build those containers. And the third one is just Postgres database. Zabbix uses for this demo. Now, what's inside my LDAP server? So we use, for many of you, those things might be familiar if you already use LDAP authentication in your Zabbix server. So we use LDAP search account to search for groups and users. So this account must have access to this DN and to this DN, users and groups, to perform searches. And we'll be looking for users. We use term base DN, and basically where all our users are located. So how all our users are located in users DN. In this setup, user 1 belongs to Zabbix admins group. User 3 belongs to Zabbix users group. Again, we are talking only about LDAP side, nothing about Zabbix here. This is my LDAP server. Now, how do we configure this in Zabbix? Pretty similar, but a little has changed in menu structure. So authentication was moved from administration section to users section. So when you go to users authentication, you see, you select LDAP, of course, for default authentication, and we see one new field, deprovisioned user group. I'll talk about this group later, but you can select a group here, only disabled group. So all the users who belong to this group will not have access to Zabbix Web UI. So all these users are disabled effectively. Now, interesting stuff. Again, it's most of you may be familiar with this screenshot because it came in 6.4, multiple LDAP servers. New field here is just-in-time provisioning. You have to check it to enable just-in-time provision, users provisioning. As you know, LDAP server can be assigned to user group. So different user groups can use different LDAP servers. But since we are talking about just-in-time user provisioning, so user doesn't exist in Zabbix. It doesn't belong to any user group. So only default LDAP server will be used to provision new users. Now we click on LDAP server 1 and see this screen. Again, name, host, port, this is everything. Sorry, I keep hitting. This is already must be familiar to you because this is just a connection to our LDAP server. Then base DN, as I mentioned earlier, you configure where are you looking for users. So top level DN, under which all your users located. Bind DN, again, you specify DN that you use for binding operation, and you have to provide password for this binding operation. So Zabbix does all the searches using this DN. By the way, this is LDAP server pop-up. We see here only top part of this window because I couldn't just fit the whole window into one slide. So this is the bottom part of that window. So when you check configure cheat provisioning checkbox, you will see all these brand new fields. So this feature works in two modes. The first mode and preferable mode is member of. So in this mode, Zabbix is actually searching for user objects in LDAP server. Every user in my setup has member of LDAP attribute. And this LDAP attribute basically contains all the groups, LDAP groups, this user belongs to. So we must specify what attribute we are analyzing for group membership. In my case, this is member of, and what attribute we are taking from all the objects found in this attribute. So we are taking CN attribute. which will be then used in mappings. So the value of these attributes will go into mappings when Zabbix is trying to perform map operation. So mappings, very interesting part. This is where you configure which LDAP user, LDAP group goes into which internal Zabbix user group and with which user role. So all LDAP users belonging to Zabbix admins group will go into Zabbix administrators user group with super admin role. All LDAP users belonging to Zabbix users LDAP group will go into Zabbix user group with user role assigned. Now, the second mode of operation in this feature is it's actually a group of names, and we are searching in groups, not in users. So we have to define where all our groups in LDAP server live. They live in group example.org TN. And again, what attribute of these objects under this DN we are analyzing? We are analyzing CN, and value of this attribute will be used in mapping later. This is just to explain more about attributes. Again, CN, we already talked about. Zabbix admins is a value of this attribute. Now, member attribute of each LDAP group has to be has a list of users that belong to this LDAP group. So we need to specify what attribute in LDAP group object we need to use to get list of users for this group. And here a bit complicated, maybe confusing part, group filter. So when Zabbix performs this search, it needs to find only groups that have this user, the user who is trying to log in. So UID, this is a reference attribute, will be referenced here, but it's expanded to username that is trying to log in. So effectively, it will be member equals UID equals user1, users example 4. So, and this LDAP request from Zabbix server to LDAP server will return only one group, Zabbix admins, because of this filter. And again, mapping, I already explained, this user will go into Zabbix administrators with super admin role. There was a lot of open LDAP, actual LDAP terminology above. Sorry for that, but LDAP is a very complicated topic. This is, yeah, don't be scared about all these attributes. When you talk to your Active Directory people or the people who manage your LDAP server, they will understand all these attributes. This is how it looks like from our as Zabbix admin's perspective. So user logs in, goes through mappings, Zabbix finds a match. So user created. User 1, super admin role, Zabbix administrator. If user 3 logs in, it's a member of Zabbix users LDAP group. It will go to Zabbix users group with Zabbix, user role and username user3. Everything is simple. And now let me give you a quick demo. It's always fun. This is interface I talked about, PHP LDAP admin. It's just, if you ever use Open LDAP server, this is very nice visual representation of your Open LDAP data. And actual server. So you see, this is Zabbix 6.4.4.0 beta 3. Again, go to users, authentication, LDAP, LDAP settings, LDAP server. This is what I talked about. We are using member of. This is our mappings. Now I sign out. Oh, very important thing. I don't have user 1 and user 3. Now sign out. User 1. I'm logged in. Users. User 1, super admin role, Zabbix administrators. Sign out. User 3. Oops, you don't see users, administration, anything. You are user 3. Why? Because you are not super admin. You are just regular user. When we go to users, you see user 3, user role, Zabbix users. Everything works as expected, surprisingly. That's it, I guess. Thanks for listening, and any questions, you're more than welcome. Say again.
Thank you, Evgeny. Okay, couple of questions. One came up earlier, but let me get to this one here, and I think you can answer it rather quickly. Given the LDAP integration, will two-factor authentication also be implemented? Oh, are you, sorry, hold on. There you go, go for it.
Yes, 2FA exists right now as separate feature only in my implementation. Let's put it this way: it's not officially Zabbix released, and it works regardless of 2FA. So it should work, bottom line. But again, the code 6.4 is not released yet. When it's released, I'll perform due diligence, merge everything, and everything works as expected. I'll release 2FA for 6.4. But the answer is yes, it should work.
Perfect, thank you. Rohan kind of asked the question in Q&A, but rephrased it in the text. So I'll read the one in the chat. To monitor database alerts, we have to add user parameters manually under agent config. Will this be solved in the latest version or a future version?
It's not related to my presentation. Nathan or Brian, they want to chime in. The problem is we are not Zabbix employees. We don't know what will be implemented or resolved in version 7. We don't even know what will be released in 6.4, for example. As I checked recently, this feature branch I just talked about is still not merged into main. So I hope it'll be merged and it'll be released in 6.4. I'm kind of 99% sure, but again, we don't have any control over that.
We're all looking at the same roadmap.
Yes.
Brian or Nathan, did anyone else want to add to that, or did that kind of cover it?
I think that covers it.
Okay. Yeah, we're all looking at the road, so we hope. Let's get to the next question. This feature can run only against one LDAP server. What about would I like to run against multiple LDAP or multiple tenants?
You need to come up with a design for that, because again, you can use multiple LDAP servers for pre-configured users that are already in database, Zabbix database. This is brand new user. do we really want to check this user against multiple LDAP servers? If yes, that might be a future feature request. For now, the answer is no. I specifically checked with Zabbix, and the brand new users that are not in Zabbix database, and for this just-in-time users provisioning feature to work, Zabbix is talking only to default LDAP server. This is how it is right now.
Okay. Thank you, Evgeny. Does the new version support SSO? Oh, again, I don't know why you keep on muting there. Go ahead, Evgeny.
Yes, I totally forgot about SSO. Sure. Oh, it's not here. 1 second. It is here. Yes, for SSO, you basically do exactly the same. Well, obviously, SSO configuration differs from LDAP, but you create the same group mappings. And when a user comes from SAML protocol and authenticated properly, we have all its his or her group membership. We can add mappings as well, and this user will be provisioned. Yeah, sorry for I apologize for missing that. And thanks a lot for this question. Yes, SAML is also.
That's a great question. Good question. Thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you, Evgeny.